Well, good morning and welcome to the Inauguration Day edition of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We have a lot to cover. We're going to be talking about inaugural procedure this morning. We're going to talk about what Trump has in store for the day, a little bit about yesterday's, what would you call it, rally? Victory rally? We also have a few things here about the outgoing Biden administration. First, a few comments. This coming from Friday after the program. This from a viewer. I had the pleasure of getting to watch a portion of the confirmation hearing for the future Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem. And I was pleasantly surprised at the demeanor and actions of the Democrat senators, Peters, Hassan, and Slocum. They were calm, reasonable, and asked logical, well-thought-out questions. And they represented their states as well as all of us with dignity. Senators Gillibrand, Schiff, Hirano, Kaine, and Warren can all take a lesson from these senators. Enjoy this because none of us see this very often. Thank you very, very much. Been watching much of the hearings myself. Here is a comment on this inaugural morning from our friend Jack. Today's the day, very politically exciting. I'm praying that the new administration will be such a huge contrast and shining example compared to the last one that there'll be no doubt in anyone's mind moving forward that it needs to be the new standard for how to govern by the people and not by the global elite and mainstream media. Trump's team looks more uniting, and hybrid, mainly from the ties that his cabinet and Trump himself have from being former Democrats and by exposing the root cause of the problems with our government and the left-leaning media. The brave new technology world needs governing and control rather than letting it careen down the hill with no brakes, waiting for the crash to, quote, build back better into some dystopian Picasso-style image of America. Thank God Almighty for today is finally here. Yes, it is Inauguration Day. Thank you for that comment. Not all, of course, are in a jovial mood. For those Americans, and we're going to help you out here on Frankly Speaking, for those Americans that are dreading the Republicans' return to office and experiencing increased anxiety, Time magazine reported about 11 science-backed activities people can try today to cope with their, quote, sense of hopelessness about the incoming administration. Psychological experts and therapists suggested a variety of activities that could help those that are emotional about Trump's return to take their focus off of their anxiety and gain a new perspective. Amalana Simon Thomas, a psychology expert and science director at the University of California at Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center, recommended exercising, doing a creative activity, showing an act of kindness, smiling at strangers, and going to see a performance. These activities can boost your mood, help you regain a sense of control, and feel connected to others. Working out can, quote, wrest back a sense of power that you might feel is missing on inaugural day or on Inauguration Day. You might not be able to do anything about the new administration's policies, but you know what you can do? 15 perfect form jumping jacks. Group crying was also another recommendation in the report. Really? Boy, that would give me more anxiety than any president getting inaugurated. Quote, it might seem counterintuitive, but if you need to shed a few tears on Inauguration Day, it's healthy to let them out with one caveat. You shouldn't do it alone. The grace and speed with which somebody recovers from grief if they have an opportunity to cry with the support of another person, someone who they trust and who they believe cares about them, is orders of magnitude improved. Other mental health experts recommended volunteering, journaling, making a vision board, dancing, and doing what is called forest bathing. You'll feel humbled, said a therapist. This mountain is going to be there forever and ever, and you're one human being standing here. Everything comes and goes, but nature is still there. 11 ways to avoid spiraling on Inauguration Day includes forest bathing and communal crying, said Robbie Starbuck, the conservative activist. 1, Democrats are so weird. 2, Time magazine is an absolute joke. But this is a real issue. Colleges and educational groups are offering advice as well for inaugural day anxiety. Educational institutions and college-affiliated groups are preparing for President-elect Trump's inauguration by offering mental health advice, delivering travel notices to international students, and organizing anti-Israel rallies. I see, and you can find it at the Empire Report this morning, but I guess there was an issue of this anti-Israel bias attack right at Buffalo University of Buffalo, excuse me. But I'll continue. Most schools will be closed on Inauguration Day due to it falling on a federal holiday. Of course, today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Similar to Trump's first inauguration and the weeks following his victory in the 2024 election, universities and educational groups are offering different outlets for students. Several anti-Israel college groups in Chicago are planning demonstrations. The University of Illinois Chicago Students for Justice in Palestine and Students for a Democratic Society intend to hold an anti-Israel protest, according to social media reports. The group will reportedly meet to, quote, fight back against Trump's racist and reactionary program. Other schools are offering mental health advice ahead of the swearing-in. Emory University's Rollins School of Public Health conducted an interview with clinical psychologist Rachel Wayford, published in December, about how to deal with anxiety during presidential transitions. Quote, Americans are experiencing a mix of emotions as Trump prepares to start his second term as president of the United States. For some, a second Trump administration is stirring up fear and anxiety. Wayford suggests that those who have anxiety should stay off social media today or unsubscribe from news outlets. Quote, I would encourage anybody who's in that state right now to think about the ways that you can plug into your life tangibly, plug into your community, social support, and the things that bring a sense of security, safety, and control. The Close-Up Foundation, a nonprofit civic educational organization, offered middle school students the opportunity, the opportunity to take a 7-day trip to Washington for their inaugural celebration in an effort to help young people see how our national ideals impact all of us today. Meanwhile, in recent weeks, international students have been urged by their universities to return to the U.S. before the inauguration, claiming that Trump's plans to crack down on illegal immigration could impact them. Several of the schools giving such notices include, right down the road, Cornell University, the University of Southern California, Harvard University, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Penn State. At Cornell, the university's Office of Global Warming sent a message to their students saying a travel ban is likely to go into effect soon after the inauguration. The ban is likely to include citizens of the countries targeted in the first Trump administration. I'm not even going to try to pronounce all of them. New countries could be impacted to this list, particularly China and India. A statement from the USC said that this is especially important given that a new presidential administration will take office on January 20th and, as is common, may issue one or more executive orders impacting travel to the U.S. and visa processing. The Los Angeles Unified School District has also directed teachers to evade immigration and customs enforcement if they show up to schools. All right, there you go. So if you need help this morning on Inauguration Day, there are some tips in some universities that are implementing different processes as President-elect is about to be sworn in for his second term. Speaking of anti-Israel protesters, the first Israeli hostages were freed by Hamas following 471 days in captivity. 3 hostages, including one who survived the brutal attack on October 7th, have been freed after the Israel-Hamas's ceasefire deal went into effect following hours of uncertainty. Romy Gonen, 23, Emily Damari, 28, and Doran Steinbrecher, 30, were handed over to the Israel Defense Forces by the Red Cross on Sunday after 471 days in captivity. They were also, which is very odd, given a gift bag by Hamas. The bag contained gifts and souvenirs, which included photos of them in captivity, a commemorative photo of Gaza itself, and some kind of certificate. This is being reported by the Israeli outlet Ynet. All 3 hostages were filmed being loaded into a car. Then, without a word, a Hamas terrorist handed each a paper bag with the group's crest on it. Apparently without choice, the women were filmed smiling as they held up gilded certificates bound like high school diplomas, and then were whisked away by an entourage of armed and masked terrorists. The hostages described the gift bags as a cynical game, apparently intended to manipulate them. In the rest of the video, obtained by the Times of Israel, the Israelis were seen being driven around the streets of Gaza in and a ramshackle motorcade of gun-wielding terrorists, while crowds of citizens mobbed the vehicles, pounded on the windows, and chanted in Arabic. So there are your updates. Now, we are going to talk about today's inauguration. I assume you plan to watch it. We'll be talking about it extensively on tomorrow's broadcast as well, but we do have some updates on what today's events will look like. Also, a few things here about the outgoing Biden administration, so you want to stay tuned for that. I do have we're going to start with a couple of quick New York stories just quickly, and then we'll move right along. We're just getting started on the inauguration. Oh, I forgot to hit my waves. I apologize. The Inauguration Day edition of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. We will be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Dear ski trip, ready for Black Diamond adventure? Let's pack it in with tons of room for the whole crew and travel first class all the way to the top. Grand Highlander.
Right now, lease a new Grand Highlander with all-wheel drive for just $489 a month. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is history making.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Got sidetracked looking at all these comments. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio on Inauguration Day. Let's go to a few comments from viewers. For as long as fear tactics work, they will never stop using them. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. I watched Trump advance put the wreaths of the tomb on the tomb of the unknown soldier for the first time ever. I've never been able because I was working. It was awesome. Yes, very moving, isn't it? A lot of events surrounding Inauguration Day. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. A couple quick New York State issues and updates. Governor Kathy Hochul's administration quietly doubled the price tag to renovate the crumbling grand staircase to the state's Capitol building. To fix these stairs, folks, I know masons can cost a little bit, but to fix these stairs, it is now up to a whopping $80 million. You heard me right. $80 million. How would you like to get that contract? The price tag of the repairs has skyrocketed from $17 million in 2014 to $41 million in 2022 to upwards of $80 million last fall, amounting to more than quadruple what the project's costs were originally estimated at. Waiting for that opening day as well. The Eastern Approach steps. It's unclear where the additional funding will come from, if it's included within Hochul's Albany upcoming budget plan. Quote, Governor Hochul's commitment to investing in the city of Albany and make our state capital a place all New Yorkers are proud of. The Office of General Services has initiated a competitive procurement process to responsibly identify a contractor to make much-needed renovations to the eastern approach of the Capitol. By law, we cannot comment further while the procurement process is ongoing. The 77 steps we're paying over, as a New York taxpayer, paying over $1 million per step. And promenade adjoining the grand Romanesque entrance known as the Capitol's eastern approach have been closed since 2015. Poor drainage and significant structural issues have left the stairs sliding downhill towards the Hudson almost as long as they've been in existence. Wow, $80 million. Also on the New York front, I thought this was just a nice quick update. We know Elise Stefanik has her hearing soon to be for the job of the United Nations for the confirmation hearings. Well, Andrew Garbriano, Nick LaLota, Congressman, they're all congressmen, Nick Langworthy, our congressman, Mike Lawler, Nicole Malatakis, and Claudia Tenney wrote an op-ed to the New York Post saying the United Nations is getting a reformer and America First fighter out of Elise Stefanik. Over her decade in Congress, Elise has driven results on behalf of her district in upstate New York and the North Country and the entire nation. Most recently, she has served as the dean of the New York GOP delegation and as House Republican Conference chair, the highest-ranking New York Republican elected to top House leadership in over 100 years. Her commitment to delivering real results for hardworking New Yorkers is seen in her legislative record and in her political determination to grow and maintain the House Republican majority. As the Senate considers Elise's nomination as President Trump's ambassador to the United Nations, New York could not be more thankful. The New York Republican delegation is appreciative of her leadership, friendship, and continued support for our efforts to deliver for New Yorkers across the state. Whether it's been joining together and bringing attention to the failures of Governor Hochul, to bring a voice of moral clarity to counter the far-left Democratic policies that continue to pollute the great state of New York, Elise and New York Republicans have been resolute in ensuring that New Yorkers' voices are heard and not overshadowed by the failed Albany Democrats. Together, this united team of New York Republicans has ushered in consequential funding for 9/11 heroes and their families, stood up against the radical defund the police movement in defense of our brave men and women in law enforcement, combated the rampant anti-Semitism infecting New York institutions like Columbia University, and exposed the corruption and subsequent cover-up of disgraced former Governor Andrew Cuomo and his deadly COVID-19 nursing home directive. As we saw this past November, the American people delivered a mandate in support of President Trump, his America First agenda, and the Big Tent Republican Party. We are proud that in our home state, Trump gained historic support among New York voters. For the national level, down to the local level, Elise Stefanik has always given her constituents a voice at the highest levels of government, in addition to supporting the empowerment of a record number of common sense Republicans across the state. Her leadership in Congress will be missed, but the tenacity and strength to deliver reform to the UN will serve our nation well. Unfortunately, the UN, like many organizations, has succumbed to the scourge of anti-Semitism, anti-Israel hate, and the general fraud and abuse of American generosity. It is ripe for reform, and Elise Stefanik is unquestionably the right person for the job. This is a bittersweet moment as the New York Republican congressional delegation loses a powerhouse and friend, but we know that her leadership on the international stage is coming at a desperately needed time. We will continue to carry the torch of Elise's strong America First, New York First approach and the strength and tenacity of New Yorkers. As crises continue to rage around the globe as a result of the 4 years of failed foreign policy under Joe Biden, it has never been more critical to bring back President Trump's America First leadership on the world stage. We look forward to furthering our work together as Elise Stefanik takes on her future role as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations to promote the President's peace through strength national security agenda. As New York Republicans, we are beyond excited to see Elise, a proud upstate New Yorker, represent the United States of America to clean out the rot at Turtle Bay. That again, Andrew Garbriano, Nick LaLota, Congressman Nick Langworthy, Mike Lawler, Nicole Malatakis, and Claudia Tenney, who represent New York in the United States House of Representatives. So I thought that was a nice boost for Elise Stefanik. And tying in with that, when they talk about what's happening at the world front, there's a very good piece this morning by Victor Davis Hanson saying that deluded Biden, blind to his foreign failures, leaves Trump a world in flames. And we've heard this from Don Jr. as well. If you recall, Don Jr. was accusing Biden of trying to start World War III, so his father could not usher in peace and prosperity. But departing President Joe Biden offered a farewell brag last week to his State Department about how his tenure had improved America's stature abroad. And you recall I mentioned that last week. In his now accustomed weird mix of whispering and fiery shouting, Biden apparently felt he had to lie or mislead about almost every one of his quote-unquote achievements. Yet to the extent that anything improved abroad on his watch, the weakening of Iran or the near destruction of Hamas and Hezbollah, it was despite Joe Biden, not because of Joe Biden. Biden, bowing to election year political pressure, did all he could to restrain and block Israel's retaliations to the October 7th massacre. Only after he was reportedly proven wrong does he now shamelessly take credit for what Israel ironically achieved by ignoring his own threats directed at Israel. Biden is correct only that Iran is weaker than it's been in decades. But Tehran was aided, not hurt, by Biden's nonstop efforts to lift sanctions, to allow Iran to make billions in oil revenues, to pay the theocracy billions of dollars in hostage ransom, and to beg the mullahs to re-enter the ill-starred Iran deal. Everything Biden did made it much harder for Israel to survive. And I think Victor Davis Hanson, he went through and talked about Ukraine and Russia, et cetera, et cetera. But Biden's open border saw more than 10 million illegal entries, among them thousands of Chinese nationals. Meanwhile, Chinese investors were freed to systematically buy up thousands of acres of American farmland adjacent to sensitive U.S. military bases and installations. Add it all up, and Biden would have done better to have just kept quiet and departed his failed presidency in shame. We're going to talk about his quote-unquote failed presidency. We have a few things on Biden's moving out today, of course, Inauguration Day. Then we're going to talk about the specifics of inauguration. Also, a few things here just in general about what Trump plans to do. Did you watch the rally last night? I did catch the performance of YMCA with Trump doing his now signature dance. But it seems like that was a nice rally. I know Friday's news that the inauguration was going to be moved indoors changed a lot of people's plans. Now it sounds like they had set aside 25,000 tickets, but the problem is with this arena, there are only 20,000 tickets, or only 20,000 seats, I should say, and that's not including what they'll have to do for security and the like. So that'll be interesting. Did you plan on going down and had to change your plan? I'd love to hear from you. If you're on your way to Washington, I guess there's no sense reaching out to you because you're not watching, frankly speaking. But I'd love to hear if you decided, or someone you know decided to go, brave the cold weather to go to the arena where they will now have the Inauguration Day parade. All right, we're going to talk about Biden when we come back. Stay with us. This is, frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hard water makes it hard to keep your home looking like the work of art you've always envisioned it would be. Culligan softeners reduce hard water buildup and your cleaning time, transforming every drop, every splash, every rinse into the fine art of a long-lasting clean. With a Culligan water softener, revel in the breathtaking beauty of your home, just the way you've always pictured it. Culligan, water you love.
I'm Mary Crawford. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
A new season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
And Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. It's Inauguration Day. 2025. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. What are your thoughts? Yes, that is a little off, isn't it? What are your thoughts about, well, let me word it this way, because we heard about the therapist that gave you ideas if you have a lot of anxiety on Inauguration Day. So how are you feeling this morning? Describe your emotions. Today, Biden will wake for the last time as president at the White House today. CNN said that Joe Biden's last official act as president will be attending the inauguration of his successor, a man he has repeatedly warned represents a fundamental threat to the future of this country. Today, the 82-year-old president leaves public service, bound to retire to his home state of Delaware after a trip to California following his departure from Washington. Now, if you saw you would assume at 82 is to retire. Now, Kamala Harris saying that she is not going to go into the night in what has become kind of a tradition as she was signing the vice presidential desk. She said, "You all know me because we've spent long hours, long days, and months and years together," she said with a snicker as she completed the tradition of signing the vice president's desk drawer. It's not in my nature to go quietly into the night, so don't worry about that, because I know a lot of people were worried that she was going to retire. The outgoing vice president added her signature next to the likes of former vice presidents Dick Cheney, Joe Biden, and Walter Mondale. She is the first female and second minority to serve as VP. The desk drawer signing ceremony dates back to the 1940s, and her desk has been used by every vice president since Lyndon Johnson. Okay, for whatever that's worth. Back to, did you see Nancy Pelosi, her daughter, ripping into Dr. Jill? The Democrat First Lady recently took a swipe at Pelosi over the Democratic mutiny against President Biden. We're going to talk about that in just a moment because the New York Times has a very interesting article that really puts the blame not as much on Pelosi as they do Chuck Schumer. We'll talk about that in a moment. But if I was Lady McBiden, I'd put on my big girl pants, play the long game, and think about my husband's legacy, Alexandria Pelosi said to Politico on Saturday. There aren't that many people left in America who have something nice to say about Joe Biden, and Nancy Pelosi is one of them, the younger Pelosi said. She has a point, because there's talk about insult injury on the way out the door. There's new polling that shows the number one word used to associate with Biden's legacy is nothing. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But well, anyway, we already know what Dr. Jill had said, but Nancy Pelosi's daughter saying there aren't that many people left in America who have something nice to say about Joe Biden, and Nancy Pelosi is one of them. So not very happy with what Lady McBiden, she calls her, what Joe Biden's wife had to say. So in one final insult to victims, and I mentioned this on Friday's show, Biden commuted the sentences of killers and sex traffickers. I guess sex trafficking, violent assault, gun possession, and murder all count as nonviolent drug offenses in Joe Biden's America, and crime victims are irrelevant. This coming from Jim Quinn. In his last days, Biden commuted the sentences of 2,500 federal defendants he claimed were convicted of, quote, nonviolent drug offenses, end quote, who are serving disproportionately long sentences. Biden is either lying or his senior advisors are lying to him, and we know a lot of what is being done, especially throughout his whole 4-year term, but specifically as of late, just being done behind the scenes by nameless, faceless bureaucrats. Biden reduced the sentence of Lariam Graham, 67, a Buffalo man convicted in 2023 of organizing and heading a drug conspiracy to sell fentanyl, crack, cocaine, and heroin. When police raided his home, they found fentanyl, crack, and cash. He also possessed a firearm in his residence. In addition to heading up the drug gang, Graham was also convicted of sex trafficking by forcing or coercion from 2013 to 2021. You see, this non-violent drug dealer threatened or beat at least 4 women in order, you get the idea, to force them into activity. He beat one learning disabled woman on a daily basis. He had 12 prior convictions, and they go through person after person that shows that it's not just this kind of blanket statement of non-violent drug offenses. To create a false narrative, racial injustice, disproportionate sentencing, mean-spirited DAs, young people's lives ruined, etc., and then enact radical policies while fending off opposition by attacking their opponents as racist. The real goal is simply to empty the prisons. The press coverage is taken right from the White House's press release. The commuting of sentences are reported as being for, quote, nonviolent drug offenders and are designed to, quote, end the disparity between sentences for crack and powder cocaine, providing deserving individuals the opportunity to return to their families. Really? The United States Attorney General does not normally prosecute 18-year-old kids selling dime bags on the corner. There are almost always aggravating factors: large-scale drug operations, sex trafficking, violence, and firearms. What about the victims, he asked. Were they ever notified of these commuting of sentences? Were they allowed to give input? Who recommended these defendants to you? Who on earth is advising you on these things? Again, this is Jim Quinn asking the question. He was executive district attorney in Queens District Attorney's Office, where he served for 42 years. He said, the Democrat Party touts itself as the last best hope for women. How does it square that with the commuting of sentences of sex traffickers, murderers, and drug dealers? The presidential pardon is a constitutional prerogative of the president, but it doesn't mean it is beyond investigation. Perhaps Attorney General designate Pam Bondi will look at these commuting of sentences when she is confirmed. I hope so. Or perhaps Governor Hochul will look into the New York defendants. I doubt it. At the sentence hearing on Larian Graham, the mother of his daily beaten sex trafficking victim spoke. The victim, a 30-year-old learning disabled woman, died prior to the sentencing. At the sentencing, when the court asked her mother if she wanted restitution from the defendant, all she asked for was the money to bury her daughter and put a tombstone on the grave. Could Biden look her in the eye and tell her what he did for her daughter's tormentor? Biden's final humiliation, though, is most Americans can't name one success and will remember him for doing, and the word is, quote, nothing. Nothing. It's the one word that unites Americans when it comes to President Joe Biden. Ask Democrats, Republicans, or independents for their one-word summary of his legacy, and they put aside all their differences to answer almost unanimously, nothing. Those are the extraordinary results of an exclusive poll conducted for Daily Mail by JL Partners. Some 1,009 registered voters were asked for their brief description of the legacy of Joe Biden, who leaves the White House today. When the results are arranged in a word cloud, the most common answer sticks out at the center. The next most popular answers are economy, inflation, and infrastructure, and a more encouraging nod to one of his landmark pieces of legislation. Yet the word nothing stands out when the responses are split by political persuasion. For Democrats, the memory is softened by other words such as good, stability, and better. But as Biden prepares for a life outside politics for the first time in half a century and plans for a presidential library and other elements in his legacy, it suggests at least the first draft of history is unlikely to be kind to him. Ask voters for their assessment of what Joe Biden achieved during his presidency, and their one-word answer is damning. And there's worse in other parts of the poll. When voters were asked whether they can remember a single Biden achievement, more than half said they cannot. Some 37% say they strongly agree with the statement that they cannot name a single accomplishment. Even Democrats struggled. More than a third said they could not name a single achievement. The results echo an earlier poll which found that voters ranked Biden as the least successful of recent presidents. Wow. Nothing is the one word used to describe by both Democrat and Republicans the Biden administration. We have a couple of other things on Biden, then we are going to move along to Trump's inauguration today. What did you think about the TikTok ban? They're getting some pushback because when TikTok was shut down and then turned back on, or however you want to word it, they thanked incoming President Trump. So AOC and others were outraged, wondering, getting conspiratorial, wondering if it was all a way for Trump to look better. Your thoughts on that? Let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Isn't your most important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. My emotions are, we're going to say, heck yeah. I'm one of the proud pieces of garbage that voted for Trump, and I'm going to be watching the inauguration. Well, thank you very much for that comment. Comment from a different viewer. I find it fitting that the Biden presidency is wedged between 2 terms of Trump. It will show how failed his presidency was, how historical he will be remembered as the worst president in American history. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. Hey, good morning. If Biden was found unfit to be president, why then is he fit to offer pardons? That's a very fair question. But he could do, he wasn't found unfit. He was, don't get me wrong, but there was no trial for it. There is no evoking that constitutional amendment to out him. So I guess that's why he still has pardon power. Comment, I wouldn't use nothing as an explanation of Joe Biden's legacy, but I would say he was great for being so left, he turned the country right. That's a very fair point. Now on MSNBC, they asked House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. They kind of confronted him with an old clip of himself during an interview on Sunday in which he declared President Biden was the best candidate to run against President-elect Donald Trump. Kristen Welker of NBC said, what do you say to Americans who believe you and other top Democrats misled them? Ooh. Wow. Because at the time, Hakeem Jeffries was saying that Biden was definitely the strongest candidate to run against now President-elect Trump. Quote, this is Hakeem Jeffries. Well, Joe Biden was the incumbent president at the time. He was a candidate at the time, and I supported him at the time. And that was the right thing to do based on the incumbent president making the decision that he was going to run. You see how they continue to try to blame Biden? Jeffries added that he wanted to look forward rather than backwards. Welker pressed even further, though, not accepting that, saying, do you believe you have a responsibility to be more forthcoming about what you see behind closed doors as it related to President Biden? Jeffries said, well, what I saw behind closed doors was a president who was working hard to get things done to deliver for the American people on infrastructure, on driving down the high prices of life-saving prescription drugs, on bringing domestic manufacturing jobs back home to the United States. Now, they also confronted Chuck Schumer on this. If you recall, I mentioned it in the past. Chuck Schumer calling any questions about Biden's mental health right-wing propaganda. When asked what he would tell Americans who think they were misled by top Democrats, Schumer said, quote, we didn't. Let's look at President Biden. He had an amazing record. The legislation we passed, one of the most significant groups of legislation since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, putting in 235 judges, a record, and he's a patriot. So Hakeem Jeffries kind of wiggling out of that. But there is a new piece at the New York Times that goes in depth about Chuck Schumer's role, if you will, in ousting Joe Biden. I'm urging you not to run. How Schumer pushed Biden to drop out. The New York senator, who swallowed concerns for months and then stalled for time on sharing them with President Biden, ultimately told him he risked going down as one of the darkest figures. What do you think you saved him from that? Even look at his farewell address. So negative, so dark. Senator Chuck Schumer sat in the foyer of Biden's beach house, tired and tense. He had not slept the night before, and on the 4-hour drive from Brooklyn to Delaware, he had rehearsed out loud what he planned to say, reviewing note cards as he prepared for what he thought might be the most high-stakes speech he would ever give to an audience of one. It was July 13th, 2024, a humid summer afternoon just before 4 o'clock, and Mr. Schumer, the Democrat leader of the Senate, was about to make a blunt case to Mr. Biden that he needed to drop his bid for a second term. If there were a secret ballot among Democrat senators, Mr. Schumer would tell the president no more than 5 would say he could continue running. Mr. Biden's own pollsters assessed that he had about a 5% chance of prevailing against Donald J. Trump. Mr. Schumer would tell him information that was apparently news to the president. And if the president refused to step aside, the senator would argue the consequences for Democrats and Mr. Biden's own legacy after half a century of public service would be catastrophic. Quote, if you run and you lose to Trump, and we lose the Senate, and we don't get back the House, the 50 years of amazing, beautiful work goes out the window. But worse, you go down in American history as one of the darkest figures. He would end with a direct, if I were you, I wouldn't run, and I'm urging you not to run. The roughly 45-minute conversation, which took place on a screened-in porch overlooking a pond, was more pointed and emotional than previously known, and helps to explain how Mr. Biden came to the decision just over a week later to end his campaign. It is a central piece of the untold story of how Mr. Schumer and congressional Democrats who spent years batting away suggestions that Mr. Biden was too old and mentally frail to be president ultimately led the effort to pressure him to step aside. This article is based on interviews with dozens of people who participated in the private push and who recounted their parts in a condition of anonymity for a forthcoming book. The new book on this, Madhouse, How Donald Trump, MAGA Mean Girls, a former used car salesman, a Florida Nepo baby, and a man with rats in his walls broke Congress. When Mr. Schumer arrived at Biden's beach house that summer day, he could hear the president shouting. I'm not going to go through all of this, but it was a contentious Zoom call. Now, originally, Nancy Pelosi liked taking the credit for ousting Joe Biden. We know that. She wanted to act Godfather-esque by saying, I did what I had to do. Now, regretting that because obviously Harris lost in that landslide election. So now they're putting the blame all on President Biden. The two embraced as Mr. Schumer headed back to his car, where he broke down in tears as he recounted the meetings to his aides. He didn't know what Mr. Biden would end up doing, he told them, but he felt he had gotten through to him. All right. Biden is going to leave Trump a letter in the Oval Office, which has become a tradition since Ronald Reagan started it. Trump left Biden a letter when his first term ended in 2020, despite skipping the inauguration. Biden never revealed the contents of the letter, but he said it was very generous. The modern-day tradition has been around since Reagan left a note for George H.W. Bush at the Resolute desk before leaving office in 1989. Reagan's note was written on stationery that included a cartoon of a turkey and "Don't let the turkeys get you down" written on the top. Reagan's note was lighthearted and pithy, but the letters only got longer from there. The turkey stationery was also discontinued as every president following used White House branded paper. All right. So what did you think about the TikTok drama? Is that something that interests you? The conspiracy theories are coming out and saying, was the whole TikTok drama a bait and switch to make Trump look good? Well, AOC said that TikTok thanking President Trump for helping restore the app is a, quote, choice. On her Instagram page, Ocasio-Cortez claimed that TikTok is signaling that they have agreed to privately collaborate with Donald Trump and the Trump administration. And for all those concerns that people are saying that TikTok is going to be used as a propaganda tool by the Chinese, understand they're using it as a propaganda tool for the right. The New York lawmaker spoke further on the point in another post, saying that every mass social media platform in the United States has been taken over by the right wing. We are on the eve of an authoritarian administration. This is what 21st century fascism is starting to look like. That's according to AOC. On the eve of the authoritarian administration, she said. Here we are on Inauguration Day. We're going to talk about the inauguration when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Stay with us.
If you're in the market for a vehicle, but not looking to buy new, Elm Chevrolet has a great selection of certified pre-owned vehicles ready to go. Locally sourced, serviced, and priced, you'll find the right vehicle at Elm Chevrolet on Church Street in Elmira. Together, let's drive.
It's time to stock up on your favorite New York wines at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines has the largest selection of Finger Lakes wines in the Southern Tier, all under one roof. Whether you're looking for Lakewood, Wagner, Wise, or Haslett 1852 Vineyards, GCP Discount Liquors and Wines is your convenient one-stop shop for these great wineries and more, all at the area's lowest prices. Shop GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Your tap water is delicious. I know, right? It's this Culligan Smart drinking water system. What do you think is going on in there?
I'm smelling a touch of chlorine.
Yeah, I'm detecting some PFAS.
I'm also getting notes of lead.
Perfection.
Sending it up.
Here we go.
Certified to reduce more than 70 contaminants. It's like having your own team of water experts. See the smart difference at Culligan.com.
In a few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and 5.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Oh, we're getting a U-turn. Okay. I guess they probably didn't know they were going to be on TV. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Happy new beginning, Frank. Well, happy new beginning to you. Isn't it so like Joe to leave the now pardoned citizens in the clink for an additional 4 years? I guess that he must have forgotten about them until his last week. Yeah, isn't that interesting? Just same with the commuting the sentences for those on death row. Why do you wait till the last day? Some of these people, now I'm not sure if all of them are going to be released, but it sure seems it. So yeah, they had an extra 4 years. Why not let them out if they were so innocent? Why not let them out 4 years ago? That's a good point. Different comment. They can blame Biden all they want. He won't remember it. Okay. Comment from Ken. Meet the Depressed interviewed Hakeem Jeffries on Sunday. It's just interesting that he now thinks that the first thing America needs to do regarding illegal immigration is to secure the border. During every question, he emphasized how dedicated the Democrats are with being bipartisan and working for America. When asked why he didn't sound the alarm in Biden's dementia, he said he only saw Biden working hard for the American people. It makes me wonder, where has he been during the last 4 years? Well, you got to think about that. You don't need to be bipartisan until you're in the minority, right? At both the House and the Senate. Now they want to work with Republicans. Could be interesting. Now 45 becomes 47 today. Yesterday there was the eve of the inauguration rally. At noon, where is it here? A crowd of supporters packed the 20,000-seat Capital One Arena. Trump said at noon tomorrow, the curtain closes on 4 long years of American decline, and we begin a new day of dignity and pride. This was the Make America Great Again victory rally. I got to watch some of it. I didn't get to catch all of it. Seemed like quite a lengthy rally, wasn't it? Once and for all, we're going to end the reign of a failed and corrupt political establishment in Washington, a failed administration. We're not going to take it anymore. The 45th and soon-to-be 47th president appeared in good spirits as he took the stage to chants of USA. He smiled broadly and he approached the microphone and said, "We won. What a good feeling. We like winning, don't we?" We're going to stop the invasion of our borders. We're going to reclaim our wealth. We're going to unlock the liquid gold that's right under our feet. We're going to bring back law and order to our cities. We're going to restore patriotism to our schools. And he is going to purge the woke ideology from our schools, government, and military. We are going to make America great again. Ahead of the rally, thousands waited in line for hours outside the arena, braving near freezing temperatures so they could get a good seat for the final rally before the new administration begins. We just came here to celebrate, said one New Yorker. Named Ying Tan. Tan said she's been involved with the Asians for Trump movement since 2020 and was part of a group that volunteered in Pennsylvania ahead of the 2024 election. We want to put America first because right now they put all the resources to the migrants, she said, arguing veterans and homeless American citizens should be the ones getting help. We want to have a president to put the resources back to the people. We have to put our own first. I'm looking forward to hearing his speech and talking about how he wants to implement change, said Lorenzo Alvarado. He hoped to be there for Monday's swearing-in ceremony before it moved indoors due to frigid weather, but took the disappointment in stride. I heard from a lot of people disappointed. I had been talking to a few people that were going to go that had money, invested in Airbnbs and hotel rooms, all to have it moved inside. So you can go to the arena, but the problem is that holds 20,000, and I believe they release tickets for 25,000 people. And normally you get hundreds of thousands in the mall. So Kid Rock saying yesterday, did you hear what he had to say about, how are we doing on time? Good. Sylvester Stallone and Jon Voight. President-elect Donald Trump said the general public must now refer to Mel Gibson, Sylvester Stallone, and Jon Voight as Mr. Ambassador after he declared that they were going to be the ambassadors to Hollywood. I think Stallone was there. The rally took place just one day before the inauguration, as you know. Also with us tonight is a great actor, tremendously talented guy, Jon Voight, who's great and a friend of mine. This was an hour-long address at least. I mean, this was quite a lengthy rally. And Sylvester Stallone is here, great guy. And I got Mel Gibson, Sylvester Stallone, and Jon Voight to become ambassadors to Hollywood, California, to put it back on track. So they're all ambassadors. You have to refer to them as ambassador, Mr. Ambassador. In the hours leading up to the Trump speech, Voight made an appearance on stage at the rally and praised the incoming president's vision of making America great again. We the people will honor our flag again, Voight said. He called Trump's victory as the greatest win of all time, the victory we were all fighting for to save our country and our democracy. I'm so grateful to say that Donald J. Trump is the 47th president of the United States. Trump first announced his decision to tap his 3 longtime supporters as special ambassadors to Hollywood on January the 16th. So we're going to tell you a little bit more about, and speaking of that, with 3 stars, Kid Rock was being interviewed. I thought he had a really good point. We're going to talk about it when we come back. Why is it that Trump has gained recent celebrity support? You may have heard there's quite a backlash, and we'll talk about it in the next hour, quite a backlash over Snoop Dogg, because you were right, there was a viewer who said that he was going to perform in a rally. It was inaugural ball, I believe. It was one that Trump did not attend. It had something to do with crypto, but it was an inaugural ball. And Snoop Dogg, who in the past had fantasized about killing Donald Trump, now performed at that event, but he's getting a lot of pushback from his supporters. We're going to talk about that as well. Also, a few things here about the inauguration, but let's take a short break, wrap up hour number 1. We have 1 segment left, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
When you think boots, think Hesselson's. Hesselson's has the largest selection of work boots in the area. Composite and steel-toe boots, Met-Guard boots, soft-toe boots, and hikers, duty and western boots all in one location. Hesselson's, Amira Heights. Hesselson's has men's and ladies' boots in all sizes and widths. Choose from the largest names in the industry. Danner, Carolina, Timberland Pro, Keene Utility, Thorogood, Area, and Georgia, to name just a few. Hesselson's has been locally owned and operated since 1955, so when you think local service and great selection, think Hesselson's. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is History Making. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio on Inauguration Day. Kid Rock believes Trump has gained celebrity support because stars, quote, now feel it's safe to support Trump. It feels like the rebirth of our nation, said Kid Rock. Felt like that at the UFC fight after the election. Everybody was together, walking into the ring. There's just this overwhelming sense, you've heard it a million times, that America's back. Now they, meaning celebrities, feel safe to go into the water after dipping their toe in for 4 to 8 years. I mean, welcome to the party. Like I said, better to have them on board than not. And this was coming in reference to Carrie Underwood, which came as a surprise to many that she was singing the national anthem. Or is she? She's actually performing America the Beautiful. Excuse me. And then you have Jason Aldean. He's playing the Liberty Ball, as well as rapper Nelly. We talked about Stallone, Gibson, John Voight. Kid Rock continued. There's a whole change in the air. There's a whole shift in everything. People saw what we did the first time. And when you're really looking at the facts and the numbers and how great it was, and it's only going to get better from there. The feeling's everywhere, especially if you're on our side. It's through the roof. But I think people, all reasonable people, I feel, are understanding just it would have gotten a reasonable Democrat. I'm not really sure what that means. Like, it's okay. We think differently on a lot of things. But if you're a reasonable person, and I really got to stress reasonable, so there you are. Trump triumphantly returns to the Capitol for inauguration. The very place, according to Miranda Devine, that Democrats tried to destroy him. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, give you a couple of updates on the inauguration in general. I know you'll be most likely be watching. Maybe you have off today for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. If not, I'm hoping myself just to hunker down and make sure to watch all the festivities throughout the day. The event starts around 11:30. I think he gets sworn in about noon. We'll talk about that when we come back. Hard to believe. Hour number 1 already in the books. Hour number 2 on its way. We're going to take a look at the inauguration. We also have a couple things here. They have a article out. If we get a chance to get to it, we may not. What the mainstream media, who they believe Trump is going to go after, who his real enemies list is, this non-existent enemies list that they keep talking about. Well, they put together who they think are on that enemies list. We'll talk about that. Also, a couple things here just about the Trump administration in general. We know he's going to push or do a lot of executive orders today. I think there's going to be over 200 issues on one executive order. They're doing it as kind of think of it as an omnibus type of executive order, saying that he said at the rally they wanted him to do it little by little, drips and drabs, but he said, no way. We're doing it all in one foul swoop. So that will be today. I believe that's right after being sworn in, before even the rally, before the inauguration parade. He's going to be a busy, busy man this morning as we look at Inauguration Day 2025, as the 45th president will now become the 47th president, and with that, swearing in the Capitol, not outside, but still obviously something you'll be able to watch. So we're going to give you updates on that coming up in just a little bit. I think that covers all of it. What did you think of the rally yesterday, if you happen to catch it? What are your feelings today? We learned that people are upset. There's therapists giving you those tips that I mentioned at the beginning of the program of how to deal with the anxiety of Inauguration Day. So what is the emotion, what is the feeling that you're feeling as we near that swearing in process? I would love to hear from you. Keep it clean. All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2, mere moments away. We'll be right back.
At Simmons Rockwell Ford, lease a brand new 2024 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend 4x4 for only $389 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Ford in Hornell and Bath.
It takes all types to play Family Feud. The Blunt Mama.
If you knew Steve Harvey was at your door, you'd answer it wearing what?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Weeknights at 7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
It's chilling, it's haunting.
We knew exactly who it was.
Blood stains on her shorts.
See you in September.
Our number 2 of Frankly Speaking, welcome. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. We're talking about Inauguration Day and how you feel. We do have a comment from Ken. Ken writes in, every social media outlet has since their inception been decidedly left, until Musk took Twitter to X, which resulted in more viewers and our government trying to damage that platform due to it no longer being a left-wing propaganda machine. Now the remaining social media have, quote, seen the light and decided to not censor the right in the interest of fairness and balance. Obviously, their epiphany had everything to do with their fear of retribution and desire to continue to make billions of dollars off the American people. I wonder if my wife will now be allowed to recant Republican talking points on the Neighborhood app without being kicked off. By the way, she is testing that today. Well, good luck. She probably will still get kicked off. I've seen that as a trend on the Neighborhood app. But yes, they've tried to censor conservatives, and that's why I am hesitant about the support of Zuckerberg. He seemed to come to the party late, meaning after the win, now he's a quote-unquote Trump supporter or wants to encourage Trump. That raises some major red flags to me. Same with Jeff Bezos to an extent. Musk, at least you could say, was there from the beginning. Not the very beginning, but campaigning with Trump, donating money to Trump, where Zuckerberg looks, to your point, Ken, to kind of see the writing on the wall and realize that if he wants to lose a major portion of Americans not going to Facebook and Instagram, that he needed to make a change. He needed to talk with the president and show some type of support for the president. Hey, speaking, this is interesting to me, and it actually surprised me, as a matter of fact. The Governor Hochul has actually ordered flags raised to full staff today for the inauguration. Now, we had assumed, and wrongly, we had assumed that Hochul would not be one of the governors that would have the flags at normal height. Many other governors were doing that, but we speculated that Governor Hochul wouldn't take that political calculation, but she did. Governor Kathy Hochul has ordered all flags in the state of New York to be raised to full staff for Donald Trump's inauguration as the 47th United States president. Flags are currently flying at half staff across the nation to mark the death of former President Jimmy Carter, who died December 29th at the age of 100. Per American flag code, the Stars and Stripes are lowered on all federal buildings, grounds, and naval vessels nationwide to mark the death of a sitting or former president. However, Hochul is bucking convention, at least temporarily. We know the Speaker Johnson called for it in Washington. Quote, tomorrow we are all Americans as we observe the centuries-old tradition of Inauguration Day, she said in a statement. For that reason, I'm directing flags to fly at full staff throughout the state of New York on January 20th and return to half staff to honor the late President Carter on January 21st. Regardless of your political views, the American tradition of the peaceful transition of power is something to celebrate. Staten Island Bureau President Vito Fasella expressed similar sentiments in a letter he penned to Hochul on Sunday. I'm writing to respectfully request that all flags across the state of New York be raised in honor of President Trump's inauguration. This gesture would serve as a symbol of unity and respect for the office of presidency, regardless of political affiliation. It is important to recognize and honor of the democratic process and the peaceful transition of power that is the cornerstone of our nation's values. Hochul is joining liberal Democrat governors, including Gavin Newsom of California and Jared Polis of Colorado, who have both ordered flags in their respective states flown at full mast for the duration of Monday's inauguration. Last week, House Speaker Mike Johnson similarly ordered all U.S. flags at the Capitol to fly at their full height when Trump takes the oath of office. I'm shocked in a way that Governor Hochul did this. I'm encouraged. I'm glad that she did that. But I did not expect it. Republican governors around the country followed suit, such as GOP Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who announced American flags at government outposts in the Lone Star State would be flown full staff in recognition of the new president being sworn in. 28 states in all will have their flags raised on January 20th to honor the inauguration. Trump himself had expressed consternation that flags would be lowered on Inauguration Day, hitting out of social media liberals on Truth Social for being giddy over the implication that the nation would be mourning for his assumption of office. We thank, Frisella said, we thank Governor Hochul for hearing our request and issuing an order for flags across the state of New York to fly full staff tomorrow for the inauguration of President Trump. The governor deserves credit for recognizing the importance of coming together as a nation and encouraging unity among all New Yorkers and Americans. Tomorrow, we will look ahead to the future of our country. Comment from a viewer. I concur with Ken, as many of my attempted comments on Facebook did not meet their standards. Thank you very much. Now, what are your thoughts about Zuckerberg really coddling up to President-elect, soon-to-be President Trump? He raises red flags to me, just because he kind of came late to the party, right? It was after the vote. It wasn't before. So your thoughts on that. But as I mentioned, Miranda Devine said Trump triumphantly returns to the Capitol for inauguration, the very place Democrats tried to destroy him. Just as fate brought Donald Trump improbably back to the presidency, there is cosmic irony in the last-minute change of venue for his swearing in today. The polar vortex that brought snow and Arctic temperatures to Washington meant the official moment of Trump's comeback triumph had to be moved into the Capitol Rotunda, the very scene of the January 6th, 2021 riot that Democrats and the media catastrophized, I don't know if I'm saying that right, to try to destroy him and his America First populist nationalist movement. Who would have thought back then that Trump would be taking the oath of office in the same sacred place that Democrat Machiavelli Nancy Pelosi used and abused for her devious political games? She and Joe Biden lied to the cops, the cops were killed that day. The Trump supporters spread excrement on the walls, that the riot was an insurrection and a terrorist attack worse even than 9/11. More than 1,500 Trump supporters caught up in the riot have been arrested, and hundreds have been sentenced to years in jail for offenses that would have seen most New York thugs left off with a slap of the wrist. Former Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio was sentenced to 22 years in jail, even though he wasn't in the Capitol during the riot. But democracy won. The will of the people has brought Trump back to the symbolic beating heart of our democracy to be sworn in for a second time. The Arctic chill provides a cathartic cleansing before the economic sunshine promised in the golden age, or the golden era of Trump. Trump promised within days. Oh yeah, we'll talk about some of the things that he's going to be doing here in just a moment. But today, after years of Biden, Trumpism is cool. NFL players do the Trump dance on the sidelines. Snoop Dogg is playing at the inauguration. TikTok is back, and more than 2/3 of young Americans aged 18 to 29 feel optimistic about the next 4 years with Donald Trump as president, according to a new CBS poll. Trump has won the grudging respect of even his most ardent critics, with New York Times columnist David Brooks calling him the most consequential American politician since Ronald Reagan. And comedian Dave Chappelle wished him well on Saturday Night Live. You can almost hear the collective sigh of relief at the prospects of competence being restored to the government. America has yet again chosen a builder to rebuild the country and possibly reunite its people. But for all his talk of unity, Trump is not the pushover he was last time, and that's a very important point. A gifted communicator is the visual mode of this era. He sent a message in the official presidential photograph that will hang in every federal building across the country. It is almost identical to his mugshot. Did you see that? His face strong, resolute, and with an air of menace. This time, the people's will be done. And that goes in line where we know he was picked to be Time's Man of the Year. But did you see the most recent cover of Time magazine that shows him kind of sweeping off Biden's desk with the aviator glasses being kind of thrown off the desk? What they're calling it is adults are in charge. Time magazine's new inauguration issue cover features Donald Trump briskly clearing President Biden's belongings from the desk in the Oval Office with his arm, sending Biden's signature aviator sunglasses flying. The illustrated cover is the fourth for the magazine by artist Tim O'Brien, who has previously depicted Trump either seated at or floating above the famous resolute desk in sequential series, using every rising water level as a metaphor for chaos or turmoil in his first presidential term. The initial cover in the series was published in February of 2017, a month after Trump's first inauguration, accompanied by the text, "Nothing to see here." It shows Trump seated, his fingers steepled, as a rainstorm rolls in, causing his tie and flaxen locks to wave forcibly in the wind. The second cover, we don't need to go through all of this. This one is now, he's back. something to keep your eye on if you want to buy the Time magazine. One person said, now let's get down to business. There's a huge mess to clean up. But Trump haters interpreted the image as depicting him as an agent of chaos. Here comes the chaos, wrote one Twitter user. Another person saying, one day these Time covers will be looked at how Soviet propaganda is looked at today. Absolutely despicable. A lot of anger out there. That's someone that's probably dealing with anxiety today and should therefore meet in a group to cry, as was recommended by the therapist. So we're going to take a short break because I just realized it's 7:10. We got to take a short break. I see a lot of comments coming in. Keep them coming in. What do you think about Inauguration Day? How are you feeling this morning? How do you feel about the event? It is a shame that it had to be moved inside, even though Miranda Devine there does have a very good point, kind of the irony there. But I know a lot of people that are missing out that wanted to attend. So what are your thoughts about it being moved inside? Your thoughts in general on this Inauguration Day edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Today's topic, increasing fuel costs continue to drive up inflation, making it harder to afford everything from food to home heating.
Here at Hustlesons, we know the only way to beat inflation is to fight inflation. So we're fighting back with zero interest financing and big cash rebates. Get a 4-person hot tub for your family for as little as $100 per month and pay zero interest. Or save up to $3,000 on a fabulous salt system hot tub. And of course, you will always get Hustlesons' unbelievable service. Don't let inflation fears kill your dreams. Fight back with Hustlesons. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustlesons.
Accidents happen. You want your repair done right. Bring it to Nappy's, or if undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family-owned for 3 generations. Voted #1 auto body repair shop 17 times in the Twin Tiers.
Thank you for your business.
Insist on Nappy's auto body done right.
In 18 months, Bath Planet has given away 3 dream bathroom makeovers, and now it's your turn. It's our absolute pleasure to announce Dream Bathroom Giveaway 4. On March 3rd, one local family is going to get a dream bathroom makeover for free. Whether you want a tub to lounge or a walk-in shower for accessibility, Bath Planet is excited to give away our 4th free bathroom makeover. Enter now by scanning the QR code or stopping by either of our 2 locations.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio on this Inauguration Day. We got a lot of comments from viewers. First off, Hochul raised the flag for votes. Nothing more than politics. Good point. Another comment, for those who didn't vote for Trump and have anxiety, I do believe Ithaca, New York still has crying rooms. Yes, they were one of the universities. Cornell was mentioned in that piece as well about the crying rooms, about the do some exercise. I remember last time it became a joke, but it was factual, where puppy dogs and ice cream were brought in to calm the minds and the nerves of the young students who just couldn't take Trump's first inauguration. A comment from a different viewer. I believe America is great and will always be. We have just been misled for the past 4 years. Thank you very much. Another comment. It's so mature of Hochul to order the flags to full staff. However, one question remains. Will she touch her tongue to the flagpole when Trump double dog dares her? Thank you very much. Little reference to the Christmas Story. Next up, will statues that were removed or destroyed be replaced? I'm not sure what's that in reference to. I'm not sure. A comment from Ken. He writes, do you think with only 5 hours left that the Biden family members and the January 6th unselect committee members are biting their fingernails, waiting for their preemptive pardons? Yeah, the talks, you're right, Ken. The preemptive pardon talks kind of went by the wayside. A lot of people speculated that they would get the same kind of pardon that Hunter Biden did. Let's take a look at that, by the way, since you mentioned that. They put, and who was it that put this together? It was all the people that they believe will be on Trump's, quote, retribution list, his enemies list. Now, for those deemed Trump's enemies, a time of anxiety and fear. Donald Trump is returning to the White House, vowing to seek retribution. Those in his sights are worried both about him and his supporters. Why his supporters? This coming from the New York Times. Mr. Trump has promised to investigate and punish adversaries, especially those involved in the 4 prosecutions and the congressional investigation of the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. Those threats, along with his stated intention to grant clemency to at least some of those who carried out the January 6th assault, have many in Washington and elsewhere on edge, fearing not just government action against them, but the telegraphing of his wishes has created an environment of unpredictability, free-range retribution by his supporters. So now, just like they're deplorable, they're garbage, et cetera, now they're someone to be feared because they voted for Trump. It's always amazing, these people who keep saying, and it's all these Hollywood celebrities, as if Trump cares about the members of The View. Oh, look at all these waves coming in. Thank you. So this is the list, again, according to the New York Times, of who will be in line for Trump's retribution. Ready? Jack Smith, okay. Letitia James. Arthur Engron, he was the New York State Supreme Court judge who oversaw that case. I forgot his name. Alvin Bragg. Fannie Willis. Now, the January 6th investigators as well, Liz Cheney, and the other members of the committee, which include one other Republican, Adam Kissinger, and 7 Democrats. General Mark Milley, Michael Cohen, John Bolton, the nuclear walrus, those in the deep state, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, 51 former top intelligence officers, or officials, I should say. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. The media. I guess he's just going to generically go after the whole media. Mark Zuckerberg, that's interesting, and maybe that's one of the reasons why Mark Zuckerberg is trying to become his friend now. Now, this is not a list that Trump has released. This is the media's take on who will be on that retribution list, this alleged retribution list. President Biden and his family, former President Barack Obama, Vice President Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi. So there's your list according to the New York Times, a list of those who could be in line for Trump's retribution. President-elect Donald J. Trump believes he has been wronged by current and former officials, members of the media, and more. All right, so Trump, this was announced on Friday, later on Friday, but I wanted to mention to you, if you had not heard the news, Trump is going to use his personal Bible and the Lincoln Bible during the inauguration. This Bible was one given to him by his mother, and the other one is President Abraham Lincoln, what he used in his own inaugural ceremony in 1861. The incoming president's personal Bible was gifted to him by his mother in 1955 to, quote, mark his Sunday church primary school graduation at First Presbyterian Church in Jamaica, New York. Trump's Bible is a 1953 Revised Standard Version, the outlet has reported. He will also be sworn in with the historic Lincoln Bible, which was used by former President Barack Obama at both of his inaugurations and Trump at his first inauguration. I can't remember. I think J.D. Vance is going to use a Bible that his, what's he call her, Mima gave him. So that's how he is going to be sworn in. That was a press release sent by the Trump campaign, or the Trump-Vance transition sends a lot of emails down to every minute point, but that was a neat one to get that information, so we had it for you. Freezing temperatures have forced a lot of big changes to today's inauguration events. Trump did announce on Friday that the conditions were dangerous and that he did not want to see people hurt or injured in any way. Therefore, I've ordered the inaugural address, in addition to prayers and other speeches, to be delivered to in the United States Capitol Rotunda, as was used by Ronald Reagan in 1985 due to the very cold weather. Capital One Arena, not far from the National Mall, where crowds would normally gather to watch the ceremony, will be open to view the inauguration, and Trump said he would stop by the arena after his swearing in. The relatively small area inside the U.S. Capitol will deprive Trump of the overflowing crowd he'd have wanted on the mall. It will also likely cause jockeying among dignitaries and lawmakers to be able to witness Trump swearing in personally. Concerns about Inauguration Day weather come with historic context. President William Henry Harrison is widely believed to have caught a cold during his 1841 inaugural ceremony, during which he gave a 2-hour speech and wore no coat or hat. He later contracted pneumonia and died 1 month after his inauguration. All right, we got to take a short break. I see A lot of comments coming in. Keep them coming in. How are you feeling this morning as we enter Inauguration Day at noon? Donald J. Trump will be sworn in as the 47th president of the United States. That's at noon today. What many are calling the greatest political comeback in history. We're going to talk about that. A couple things here about some of the performers, some of the things to look for, what some of the talking heads had to say, but we got to take a short break. What's most important is I want to hear from you. What do you think about today? Do you need the puppy dogs and ice cream cones to get through the anxiety? Or are you going to be celebrating with an ice cream cone? Anyway, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now for this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers. This free book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies that will help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. Call right now for your free book, and as a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report. Both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-354-5972.
Football's newest show breaks down all things NFL. GMFB Overtime.
Check out top highlights, player interviews, special guests, and everything in between. 5 days a week.
GMFB Overtime. It's football for everyone.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Here's a comment. I was almost going to combine the two. Here's a comment from a viewer. Given that President Reagan was also forced to move in his inauguration side, I take it as a good sign. But Snoop Dogg, really? We're going to talk about that in just a moment. I understand your apprehension. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. Comment from a different viewer. Media at its finest today, and that was in reference to the article that I mentioned at the very top of the program, which is talking people off the ledge, how to deal with their anxiety with Trump derangement syndrome on Inauguration Day. A day to actually be thankful for live stream on the White House website. Yes, so you don't have to see the media's coverage. I agree. Good morning. Another comment from a different viewer. He absolutely should have a retribution list. They have always accused us of what they are and what they do. Oh, the irony. They know that he absolutely should go after those who scammed and lied. Bottom line, who broke the law? We are told by the left above, no one is above the law. I think in New York State we should start with Letitia James. But wait, there's more. Go Bills. Well, thank you, Go Bills. That was a great game yesterday. I guess it was past my bedtime. I watched the first half, but I guess it got a little nerve-wracking towards the end, huh? So I'm kind of glad I was not able to stay up. Okay. Here we go. We have to be sensitive to those that need a puppy for comfort. Not everyone has Frankly Speaking in their life for encouragement through the rough years. Well, thank you. That's a nice comment. Yes, not everybody. They should watch Frankly Speaking. But I understand the outrage over Snoop Dogg on both sides because him and Rick Ross, who performed at this pre-inauguration crypto ball, had both fantasized about killing President-elect Donald Trump in their music, with Snoop even pretending to point a gun at the then president in a music video. Video footage from the party has gone viral, showing Snoop Dogg taking the stage to perform a set for the tuxedoed crowd. It was a pro-Trump crypto ball. Now, I don't believe Trump was in attendance. You know, anybody can throw an inaugural ball. House Speaker Mike Johnson was there, along with other rappers, including Rick Ross and Soulja Boy, according to multiple reports. In the video, Ross denied he was performing at the event, though he did appear to confirm his attendance, saying, "It's a private vibe I'm doing with my brother Snoop Dogg." However, additional viral footage from Friday's party showed Ross performing on stage. Snoop Dogg vehemently opposed Trump during his first term. We don't have to go through all that. Some very nasty things were said at the time. Friday's Crypto Ball was a private 4-hour affair with tickets going for $2,500 and $5,000, according to a report from CoinDesk. Other attendees included Trump's crypto czar pick, David Sachs, as well as tech entrepreneurs Michael Saylor, Brian Armstrong, and Winklevoss brothers, the Winklevoss brothers. But Snoop is receiving backlash from the left over this. The rapper and actor was filmed performing at the first ever Crypto Ball, as I mentioned. Silicon Valley investor and millionaire Sachs is set to step into the White House in his formal capacity as AI and crypto czar, a real job title, for cryptocurrency shilling President-to-be Trump. After footage of the performance was uploaded to the Shade Room on Instagram, Snoop came under fire, with some describing the move as culturally embarrassing and disrespectful. A large portion of the star's fans have not taken it well. Now, he had said, when the controversy began, he declared last year that he had nothing but love and respect for the Donald. Wait a blanking minute. Snoop Dogg is playing Trump's inauguration? No. I never thought I'd have Snoop Dogg being a Trump supporter on my bingo card, but here we are. What is Snoop Dogg's new name? I'll go first. Snoop Fraud. Ooh, losing some of his supporters. Dressed in a black jacket with gold buttons and a bow tie, Snoop performed hit single Drop It Like It's Hot and reportedly played a DJ set which included Journey's Don't Stop Believing and Bob Marley's Three Little Birds. Now again, he in the past had been very outspoken in his dislike of Trump. So this goes back to what Kid Rock is saying, that it's now safe for people in the Hollywood world and the performance world to support the man who won in a landslide. Even the Village people who admitted that they voted for Harris performing at that rally yesterday, saying they want to bring a message of unity. All right, there you go. What to watch for Donald Trump's second presidential inauguration, according to Michael Williams at CNN. How am I doing here? Time-wise, good. Okay. Well, no, let's take a step back. I did have another piece on this, how liberals are fuming as Snoop Dogg performed at the pre-inauguration ball. Yeah, they are. They took to social media saying that this was not good. Get out of here. Oh, wow, using some horrible, horrible language to describe Snoop Dogg. Wow, nothing I can read, actually. Some nasty things. So what are you going to watch for at Trump's second presidential inauguration? Trump will be sworn in today, returning to power to enact his sweeping vision of America after leaving his office, it says here, this is from CNN, in shame 4 years ago. Trump will become the nation's 47th president at noon today, completing a remarkable 4-year arc after he left Washington as a pariah at the end of his first term. J.D. Vance will become its 50th vice president, a meteoric rise for a man who was elected to the Senate back in 2022. Both Trump and Vance have promised to hit the ground running to enact a wide range of his agenda. The day is already shaping up to be out of the ordinary. Projected frigid temperatures means that it's moved inside. Trump described Monday's conditions as dangerous. Therefore, I've ordered the inauguration address, in addition to prayers and other speeches, to be delivered in the United States Capitol Rotunda. Capital One Arena, not far from the National Mall, as I mentioned, where crowds would normally gather to watch the ceremony, will be open where you can view the inauguration in there. Now, Trump has said he will take steps to immediately enact part of his large agenda, with executive actions pertaining to immigration enforcement expected to be released within the first hour of his second term. We're going to tell you a little bit more about the executive orders. One of the first moves Trump said he will make as president is signing an order that delays the law that banned TikTok and briefly made the app unusable for Americans over the weekend. The divest or ban law, which received bipartisan support and was signed by President Joe Biden in April, required TikTok's Chinese-based parent company to sell the app by January 19th or face it being blocked to its 170 million users. Now the conspiracy theories are coming out. They're saying that did TikTok do this just to benefit Trump? I think most of us know that is not the case. Or why would that even be necessary as he's being sworn in today, so he doesn't need some type of political pat on the back. But Trump on Sunday said he would use an issue to extend the period of time before the law's prohibitions take effect so that we can make a deal to protect our national security. He also proposed a 50-50 partnership between ByteDance and an American owner. Trump proposed a TikTok ban during his first term and has since embraced the app because of its influence among young people. Trump also says he plans to swiftly pardon people who were convicted for their roles in the January 6, 2021 insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. The president-elect's team has drafted a slate of January 6-related pardons that Trump plans to issue on his first day. The extent of Trump's planned pardon is unclear. About 1,270 people have been convicted of crimes related to that attack. And then his opening rhetoric is to be closely watched, CNN says. Trump vowed to seek retribution against his opponents and political enemies. Those who oppose Trump will be watching the opening hours of his second administration closely to see how quickly he carries out those threats. He said of his political opponents last summer, when the election is over, I would have every right to go after them. He said that sometimes revenge can be justified. Opponents of Trump include the prosecutors who have investigated him, the lawmakers who have countered him, the political figures who have opposed him, and the news media that has covered him. We'll be closely watching how Trump handles his first day in office to determine whether these threats carry any weight. It's like we're ignoring the fact that he's already been president for 4 years, right? Now, Biden's last official act as president will be attending the inauguration of his successor. On Monday, he leaves the White House, leaves public service behind, bound to retire to his home state of Delaware after that trip to California. During his farewell speech from the Oval Office, Biden said his crucial legislative achievements will have a long-reaching reverberation that outlasts his presidency. Remember saying, hey, good things are going to come. So that's so that they could preemptively start to take credit for Trump's job, for the work that he'll be doing. But if you look at those polls, show that the number one word used by Republicans and Democrats to describe Joe Biden's administration, nothing. That was a poll that came out for the Daily Mail. So a lot of coverage begins early this morning, and it's events that will be happening all day long. You can watch the ball later. There'll be numerous ones. But Maureen Dowd, how am I doing on time? Maureen Dowd says Trump brings a chill to Washington. I like this idea that we're supposed to feel bad for Washington bureaucrats, the deep state, the swamp that Trump talks about. Be concerned about their emotions, their feelings on this thing, just like these people that think, like the view that he's going to throw them in internment camps or something ridiculous. But for many moons, the protocol for inaugurations has been as immutable and dignified as the words of presidents engraved on their monuments. Leaders and luminaries would put aside their grudges and come together to celebrate democracy. This day marks the deepest conviction of the American experiment, that power must pass peacefully from one commander-in-chief to the next. But what if you're coming to honor a man who tried to overthrow the government and steal an election? A man who riled up his own followers to sack the Capitol and then lumbered out of town, a sore loser and a vile humor, skipping the inauguration of his successor. Does he merit the usual privileges, says Maureen Dowd? Should anyone honor him in his moment at the center of the sacred traditions he desecrated? When Obama and Pelosi blow off Donald Trump on his triumphant day, that meaning Michelle Obama, are they being rude and unpatriotic, or are they justified, given his incendiary words, misogyny, and racism, his defilement of the tradition of the heart of America? The weather will not be the only bitter chill in town. Besides Michelle and Nancy's cold shoulder, Barack Obama and the Clintons are skipping the inaugural lunch. Trump is returning as a colossus. He has brought Washington Democrats and Republicans to heel, teamed up with Elon Musk, and slapped a gold Trump sign on Silicon Valley. The Lords of the Cloud helped fund the coronation, and they're making a pilgrimage here to bow to the new overlord. So if someone supports the president, you never hear someone using language like that, overlord, when Biden has support of people like George Soros and others. It's again, this is Maureen Dowd, so take it with a grain of salt, but still, just to show you what we'll be dealing with. But not everyone is looking forward to what's in store. It will be hard to forget Trump's day of infamy, January 6th, as he gets sworn into the Capitol, which was smeared with blood and feces by rioters, recast by Trump and his acolytes as hostages, patriots, tourists, and grandmothers. The wintry cold is ordinarily part of the inaugural tradition. Trump posed on Friday that the Arctic blast would force the shindig inside to the Capitol Rotunda. But given Trump's obsession with crowd size, many wonder if he was just shivering at the thought that the weather would keep spectators away. See, they always think they know what's in his mind. An X account belonged to a beloved D.C. dive bar, Dan's Cafe, dryly posted about the shift to the rotunda. Good thing his supporters already know how to get inside. Trump's last inauguration was marred by his meltdown over crowd size. He called the National Park Service director the next day to press him to produce additional photographs of the crowd on the mall after the agency shared photographs showing that Obama had a much larger crowd at his inauguration than Trump did. This set the tone for the high chair king's first term. Reality must take a seat back to ego stroking or else. The mood in Washington is very different this time. Instead of a rowdy resistance and a women's march that drew nearly 500,000 and some 5 million across the globe, an international swath of pink hats, we have Republicans who've got even more sheep-like, and Democrats still seem deflated and flummoxed with no compelling ideas or polls to lead them out of the wilderness. And this, as Trump is surrounded not by advisors, generals, and a daughter trying and failing to temper him, but by fervent loyalists who will help him toss out executive orders the same way he tossed out paper towels in Puerto Rico with no worries about who might be hit. This is, oh my goodness. Enough on that. But that's a little bit of the kind of the Trump derangement syndrome that was mentioned earlier, where people have that anxiety, that they need that help. As Biden, baked in Washington tradition, dutifully follows the script on Monday, he should ponder what his legacy will truly be: resurrecting Trump. So it ends on this anger towards Biden. There's a lot of anger towards Biden, saying that with Trump kind of bookending, you know, Trump before him and Trump after, it shows a failed legacy by Biden. But we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will be. Got to see which break it is. Right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Are you ready for winter in New York State? Ready for thrills like this? Discoveries like this? Views like this? Are you ready to make memories? Plan the perfect trip or have an impromptu getaway. It's time to explore everything that makes New York easy to love. Discover more at iloveny.com.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost and lonely. I had snapped, I had a gun, and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still life to live. For the better of myself, my family, my weapon is now safely put away.
My son, Ricky, took his life by the use of a firearm. It broke me in ways that I never knew that I could be broken. And I contemplated suicide. Afterwards, we found out his girlfriend, she was pregnant. If that was my grandson, I was gonna have to be here for him. I still own my firearm. I keep it in a safe because I want to keep my grandson and myself safe.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone.
Store your gun securely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on this inaugural day edition. Let's go to some viewer comments. Since we are the garbage for voting for Trump, maybe we should send a garbage truck to get the Biden stuff out of the White House. Thank you very much. Different comment. Well, Democrats always said that it would be a cold day before Trump returned. Thanks, Fred. That's a very, very good point. The great thing about freedom is the U.S., you have the right to leave, as did Ellen Ungenerous. Thank you very much. A comment from Ken. I'm waiting for the executive orders reversing the un-American executive orders that Biden's handlers had him sign, especially ones that secure the border, remove illegals, and open up our energy resources. We are going to talk about the executive orders. President Trump has vowed, And here, another comment first. Another good thing about the incoming president, the first lady has class. And the media seems to be a little bit more open up to Melania recently. Maybe she'll finally get some magazine covers that were never awarded to her the first time, even though she was a model. Just before noon, Donald Trump will be inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States. 2.5 months after his convincing election victory over Vice President Harris, the president-elect returns to office in what will symbolize his reinvention and redemption 4 years after being ushered out of the White House by the American electorate. Quote, "We put America first and it all starts tomorrow." This is what he said at that rally yesterday. "We begin a brand new day of American strength and prosperity, dignity, and pride." President Biden, Harris, former President Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton, Republican and Democrat members of Congress, foreign dignitaries, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos, other tech and business executives, and some high-profile celebrities will crowd into the U.S. Capitol Rotunda for Trump's inauguration, which will be held indoors for the first time in 4 decades. After Trump's inaugural address, there will be a rapid-fire series of events, including a formal farewell for Biden and Harris as they leave the Capitol. Minutes later, members of Congress will watch as Trump and J.D. Vance take part in a signing ceremony, followed by an inaugural lunch and then a review of the troops. Trump then returns to Washington, D.C.'s downtown area for an abbreviated parade, which was moved indoors because of the frigid weather, in front of thousands of supporters. After that, the new president heads to the White House for an Oval Office ceremony before making his way to the traditional inaugural balls in the evening. Trump is also expected to get to work immediately. This is the important point, signing more than 200 executive actions on his first day in office. Quote, "I will act with historic speed and strength and fix every single crisis facing our country," Trump vowed. "You're going to see executive orders that are going to make you extremely happy. Lots of them. Lots. We have to set our country on the proper course." Trump's first wave of policy priorities will focus on issues he's highlighted during his presidential campaign, including border security, energy, curbing inflation, and ending DEI programs across the federal government. A senior administration official familiar with the executive actions and authorized to brief Fox News Digital said Trump on day one, quote, "will end the catch and release of illegal immigrants, pause all offshore and wind leases, terminate the electric vehicle mandate, abolish the so-called Green New Deal, withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord, and take several major steps to assert presidential control over the federal bureaucracy. By the time the sun sets tomorrow evening, the invasion of our borders will come to a halt, and all the illegal border trespassers will, in some form or another, be on their way back home. And we're going to end the Biden war on American energy and unleash our energy resources to quickly defeat inflation and achieve the lowest cost of energy and electricity on Earth." This is going to be an interesting day. Trump's journey since the election loss in 2020 is nothing short of remarkable. His refusal to accept the election results, support for the January 6th insurrection, and subsequent legal challenges, including indictments and convictions, would have historically ended any future political ambitions, says veteran political scientist Wayne LaSperance. On this day, the U.S. will witness the return of President Trump at the zenith of his political power. So he's got to take more than 200 executive actions on his first day to clean up, quote, "failed, corrupt political establishment." The actions include 50 executive orders, which are legally binding, with some involving border security and domestic energy production, while others are designed to ensure that federal workers are hired based on merit. Trump plans to start signing the orders immediately after he is inaugurated, said Jason Miller, a senior advisor. Many of the moves will be part of an omnibus directive. The incoming president previously indicated he would sign at least 25 orders on his first day in office. This is massive, record-setting, unmatched first wave, an official said. This is the most extensive list of executive actions in American history. As part of the orders, Trump will declare a national border emergency that will effectively close the southern U.S. border. It is unclear whether the country's northern border will have any immediate actions taken against it. Some of his more extensive day one plans have already leaked, including his mass deportation plan, slated to begin in Chicago immediately after his inauguration. The crackdown would be on top of a potential citizenship order that would end automatic citizenship to children of illegal migrants born in the U.S. Quote, "On day one of my new term in office, I will sign an executive order making clear to federal agencies that under the correct interpretation of the law going forward, the future children of illegal aliens will not receive automatic U.S. citizenship. The order would violate the 14th Amendment and likely be challenged in court." We also learned that he's going to suspend the security clearance of the 51 intelligence agents or officials who falsely implied that Hunter's Biden laptop was Russia fake information. Remember that? President-elect Donald Trump on day one plans to suspend security clearances of the 51 intelligence officials who claimed reportedly tied to Hunter Biden's laptop had the, quote, classic earmarks of Russian disinformation ahead of the 2020 election. If you recall that, they now call it the spies that lied. Trump will repeal the clearances of the so-called spies who lie as part of a flurry of executive orders he's expected to sign on his first day in the Oval Office, citing a senior administration official close to the matter. It is going to get interesting. It's going to be a busy day. Federal authorities eventually confirmed that the laptop belonging to Biden's son was authentic. You know all about that. So 51 intelligence officials will no longer have their security clearance. Let's take a short break because I heard that corning whistle. Keep those comments coming in. How do you feel on Inauguration Day? I would love to hear from you. And we will be right back, frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us.
Hustling plus overbooked plus bustling plus cleaning overlooked. It all adds up. With Mary Maid's professional cleaning services, you'll have one less thing to worry about. Mary Maid's, relax, it's done. Plus too busy, plus bustling, plus in a tizzy. It all adds up. With Mary Maid's professional cleaning services, you'll have one less thing to worry about. Mary Maid's, relax, it's done.
It's your season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my number one goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is history. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. A comment from a viewer. Celebration. Good times come on. Singing a song there. I like it. All right. Trump's border czar has made an abrupt reversal after there was that leak about mass deportations. Border czar Tom Homan is reconsidering immigration raids on Chicago and New York after details were leaked in news reports. Homan, former acting director of U.S. Intelligence and Custom Enforcement, told the Washington Post that the new administration hasn't made a decision yet. We're looking at this leak and will make a decision based on this leak. It's unfortunately because anyone leaking law enforcement operations put officers at great risk. So that's a bad sign. We know that Trump's first term was marred by a lot of leaks to news reporters. But worried migrants in New York City shelters are already fleeing. It's better to leave before, they're saying. Migrants shacked up at Big Apple shelters are jittery over promised ICE raids on the eve of Donald Trump's inauguration Monday. And many are ditching their tax-funded digs so they can avoid deportation. It is better to leave before, said Venezuelan migrant Kervin Nava. I am making arrangements somewhere else. One Manhattan migrant who asked not to be identified said the fear has gripped the shelter. It's in God's hands, but there are people who have started leaving the hotel because they're scared. When ICE came a few weeks ago, they had an arrest warrant for someone who lived there, and there's nothing they could do. Other migrants said they were just angry at their suddenly dim prospects. Trump has long promised mass deportations of illegal immigrants in the U.S. and has designated Tom Hoffman, his new tough-as-nails border czar, Tom Homan, to start making it happen as soon as he's in office. Homan, who has identified immigration asylums like Chicago and New York as the first priorities, told Fox News that he's reconsidering when and how to pull the trigger after some of the details of the planned raids were leaked to the press. It's going to be a big raid all across the country, he said. Chicago is just one of many places. We got 24 ICE field offices across the country. On Tuesday, ICE is finally going to go out and do their job. We're going to take the handcuffs off of ICE and let them go arrest criminal aliens. That's what's going to happen. Delayed or not, Holman assured the raids are coming, and it has migrants shaking in their boots. Migrant Lamaine Guay said some people think that they come in buses and load people out from the shelter, take them to the airport. It is going to be, well, the optics, the media, that's why they're leaking already. They are going to use this as a negative, even though this is one of the reasons why Trump was elected. They are going to do everything they can to paint this as a negative. National Guard, like articles like this from Politico, National Guard troops worry Trump will deploy them for mass deportations. I don't want to be seen as a Gestapo, said one former senior military official. National Guard members fear landing in the center of a political tussle between red state governors and blue state attorney generals over Donald Trump's expected crackdown on undocumented immigrants. The large-scale deportation effort could begin as soon as today, with Republican governors vowing to deploy the Guard if Trump asks, and officials in Democrat states readying quick legal pushback. Some of the 435,000 troops worry they'll get pulled into a legally murky mission, rooting out people in communities where they have day jobs such as sheriffs, cops, or firefighters. Our North Star is how lawful is it, says Rob Bonta, California's Attorney General. If they are operating lawfully, there's nothing for us to do, and the president is allowed to do that. If he's acting unlawfully, as he did many times under Trump's 1.0, we sued him over 120 times. All right, we got to take another short break. Here is a comment from a viewer. Equality, not equity. Merit matters. Thank you very much. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. Then we're going to wrap things up. Get your last minute comments on this inauguration day. I want to hear from you as we head towards the swearing in ceremony. Taking the oath of office, Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance, right around noon today. What are your plans? Are you gonna watch like the Super Bowl? How are you gonna watch the inauguration? I'd love to hear from you and what your thoughts are. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Lease a brand new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Premium all-wheel drive featuring power moonroof and heated seats for only $359 a month for 36 months. Make Carbine simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Subaru in Big Flats.
In a game of few words. Urkel, glasses. Nerd. It pays to know your nerds. If you guys didn't get nerd with me sitting up here on this show, 25 words or less.
Weeknights at 5 and 5.
All right, we have some breaking news, folks. The president, Joe Biden, as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio, Biden has issued preemptive pardons. This breaking news just a moment ago. President Joe Biden issued pardons for General Mark Milley, Dr. Anthony Fauci, and members of Congress who served on the committee investigating the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol. Biden, writing in a sentence, or his people, our nation relies on dedicated, selfless public servants every day. They're the lifeblood of our democracy. Yet, alarmingly, public servants have been subjected to ongoing threats and intimidation for faithfully discharging their duties. He said the issuance of these pardons should not be mistaken as acknowledgement that any individuals engaged in any wrongdoing, nor should acceptance be misconstrued as an admission of guilt for any offense. Our nation owes these public servants a debt of gratitude for their tireless commitment to our country. In a statement, Milley said he and his family were deeply grateful. After 43 years of faithful service in uniform to our nation, protecting and defending the Constitution, I do not wish to spend whatever remaining time the Lord grants me fighting those who unjustly might seek retribution for perceived slights, Milley said. I do not want to put my family, my friends, and those with whom I serve through the resulting distraction, expense, and anxiety. So again, if you are just joining us as we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking, Biden has issued preemptive pardons for Milley, Fauci, and the January 6th committee members. That of course, includes Liz Cheney. Okay, a couple comments. Interesting political times ahead. Mass deportation could definitely fuel a Democrat fire. No. January 6th. Yeah, January 6th committee members are also pardoned. Yep, saw that. Thank you. I think illegal immigrants should be worried. They did break the law, right? Yeah, that's a good point. I've seen documentaries, this is from Fred, of what some migrants went through to get to the border, and I feel for them. But that was their choice to illegally enter, and they cannot stay. They have not been here long enough to put down roots in our community, so they can keep on moving along. Thanks, Fred. But yes, the breaking news coming out this morning of the preemptive pardons that so many were waiting for. We even joked at the beginning of the show of what were they going to happen. Ken says proof that they are criminals. Well, Biden says don't take it as an admission of guilt. By the way, as we wrap up, Trump vows to release JFK, RFK, and MLK assassination files in a massive transparency push. At the first step towards restoring transparency and accountability to government, we will also reverse the overclassification of government documents, he said. And in the coming days, we are going to make public remaining records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, his brother Robert Kennedy, as well as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, Lindsey Graham was on Face the Nation on Sunday saying, worry about reporting the news fairly, which you don't do when it comes to everything Trump, signaling that CBS has not been what you would consider fair to this administration. I believe, well, we're not going to go through all that because we don't have time. Trump also took a shot at the ABC presidential debate moderator over crime rates fact check during the rally. Do you remember I did this debate and I had David Muir from ABC saying, no, crime has gone down. I said, no, it's gone through the roof. Crime has gone through the roof, David. No, crime has gone down. I said it's gone through the roof, and then he goes, I disagree with that. The next day they announced the crime was up like 40%. This guy is, the whole thing is so bad. Yes, wow, a lot of people upset. This is absolutely outrageous, and of course they're all guilty. I agree with Ken. Proof. Thank you, guys. If you're just joining us, the big breaking story this morning that Biden issued the preemptive pardons for Milley, Fauci, and the January 6th committee members. Not a surprise, but I thought maybe they'd forgotten about it almost in a way because we're getting right. I mean, few hours, he will no longer be president. Here's a comment from a different viewer. Not surprised, one criminal pardoning another to cover his crimes. Thank you very much. Oh, so many comments coming in, but we are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Oh, by the way, there is a lawmaker. Representative Todd Warner has filed House Bill 217, which would rename Nashville International Airport to honor none other than Donald J. Trump. There you are. We are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Did preemptive pardons exist before Hunter, or is this another Biden legal invention? I don't know. One that's been that sweeping. I think most agreed that they can't think of one that has been that sweeping like with Hunter. I don't have the specifics because it just broke about the preemptive pardons that Biden released this morning, so we don't have all the specifics. I'm sure we'll talk about that tomorrow, as well as the inauguration. Enjoy the inauguration, and let me know what you think, and we'll read them on the air, the comments on the air tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with Frankly Speaking. I look forward to it already. Enjoy Inauguration Day 2025.
At John G. Ullman & Associates, our clients come first. As a fiduciary, we build personalized plans rooted in our shared ethics and values.
And you've been doing this for 45 years?
Yes, our in-house team creates custom plans built for you and your family.
We like the idea of a relationship that lasts.
That's what we're all about, helping you and your family build and protect wealth for generations. John G. Ullman & Associates, here for everything your money touches.